Good morning, everybody. Happy Friday. We have an amazing show for everybody today. What do we have, Krystal?
Happy Friday, everyone. I would say today's show is super stacked. That's how I would describe
amazing.
it. We've got Cal Kalinske on to talk about the Sanders campaign and where the left goes from here. We've got Nathan Robinson of Current Affairs also to talk about lessons learned from the Bernie campaign and whether or not all of Sanders' movement is going to line up behind Biden and whether they should. We also have Matt Taibbi on. I don't know if you know this, but Matt has left Rolling Stone. He's gone independent. Big congrats to him. We're going to talk to him about what he's up to. And also, there's no better reporter on both the 2008 financial crisis and also the bailout and the restructuring of our economy that is happening as we speak. So we're going to talk to Matt about that. But first, Saagar, Joe Biden making his first big moves to win over Sanders supporters.
It's funny because this has been universally hated by the right and the left because the right is like, Joe Biden is now the first presidential nominee ever to pivot left after he secures the nomination. And then the left is like, wait, he's not actually pivoting left. So he's screwing himself both ways. And what I mean by that is we can put up a little bit of what he's decided to throw to the Bernie supporters. And that is he's having a new proposal on college, but the most significant one is on Medicare. He had some nice things to say about Bernie, though. Let's take a listen to that, and we'll compare it to what he's actually offered. Let's take a listen.
He's inspired and energized millions of supporters, especially young voters, to join him in championing a progressive vision for our country. And he didn't just run a political campaign, he created a movement. And that's a good thing for the nation and for our future. While Bernie's campaign is ended, I know his leadership's going to continue.
And so he has these nice things to say. Then the first day, the full day that he's officially the presumptive Democratic nominee, he proposes lowering the Medicare age from 65 to 60.
Wow.
Which is a
bold
big
proposal.
And that was lauded in, I guess, some circles. And then the second one was,
I didn't see those circles.
A student debt forgiveness plan, which would eliminate student debt for low-income and middle-class people who attended public colleges and universities, HBCUs, and other institutions that serve students of color. So some debt relief, it looks highly means-tested to low and to mean. And
incrementalist.
I'm not necessarily against that.
Yeah.
But you highlighted just how pathetic of a kind of, if this is a bridge to the left, how pathetic it is, because what did one Hillary Rodham Clinton support when she was the nominee?
Lowering the Medicare age to 55 or 50 even. And there are currently many co-sponsors of a bill in the Senate to lower it to 50, including leftist firebrands like Amy Klobuchar.
Right.
So at this rate, I mean, again, we've talked about this. I mean, it's not surprising. Look, Joe Biden is who he is. I'm going to talk about this in my radar a little bit. He's been in Washington for almost 50 years.
Yeah.
He's not changing. Like, you have to evaluate who he is and decide based on that, because he is not going to change who he is. He's not a left. He's not a firebrand. He's like sort of fake populist. He adopts the rhetoric of the working class. He's got this middle class like branding exercise that he does very well, that he's maintained very effectively. And then he's a typical corporate Democrat. I mean, that's who he is. That's what he does. It's not changing. And the like sort of pathetically laughable nature of these proposals just shows you again that they really have no understanding of the Sanders left, of the movement, of how to even try to appeal to them.
It made me wonder, actually, is like, are we all just reading this wrong? Because when the media picked this up, including me, being like, wow, like this is his attempt to reach out to the left. That's kind of, pretty pathetic. I don't even know. Well, maybe it wasn't even that attempt. Maybe this is just an attempt, to pander to his, not pander, but to give his base of suburbanites, Wall Street, and older voters exactly what they want, which is a 65 to 60, right? There's like 19 million people that would be covered under the 65 to 60. So in a certain way, I'm almost looking at it and be like, I think it's such a pathetic handout to the left, so to speak, that maybe it wasn't even that way and we're all misconstruing it. But I think the one way we can at least look at it is if it's within that lens. The fact that Hillary Clinton was to the left of Biden now on healthcare. And
4 years ago.
Right, not just to the left of Biden now on healthcare. Biden post his leftward lurch.
Right.
Then you're like, something is going on here.
Well, and the funny thing is, you said, this was lauded in some circles, and I made a joke like, I haven't seen those circles. But actually it was, because the media bought hook, line, and sinker like, oh, Biden's big overture to the left. Look at how magnanimous he's being. It was all framed that way as if this was a real progressive position that he was holding. And so I think also it gives him, even if they don't expect this to win over reluctant Bernie supporters and leftists, I think it gives them cover to say, like, look, we tried. We really extended the olive branch. We moved to the left. We adopted certain parts of Bernie's framework and his values, et cetera, so that at the end of the day, again, what is it all about? Being able to credibly blame Bernie Sanders supporters if Joe Biden loses.
And I see it. That's why I saw some progressives, some on my Twitter feed somehow being like, oh, like this letter is great, the Sunrise letter and all that. And I just looked at it, I'm like, he's literally not going to do any of this.
Right.
And then, you put that letter up against this, a 65 to 60 age, whenever there's moderate House Democrats and senators who support lowering the age to 50. He's not even giving them what they want. His bargaining position is so far to the center that I'm like, you guys are delusional if you think any of this is happening.
Well, I think that they're pretty clear-eyed, actually. I mean, in a sense, and this was what both Ryan, it's funny, they both used the same language yesterday. Ryan Grimm and Cenk said, look, they're smart and they know that you don't start with half a loaf and then bargain to one slice of bread. They start with what they actually want and then hope they can go from there. But I also think it's a little bit the flip of what the Biden campaign is doing. They're laying out like, look, we are open and our coalitions are open to supporting you, and not just supporting you, but going out and organizing and trying to mobilize and like really getting behind this campaign. But you got to give us something to work with. And so it's also laying a marker down on their side so that if he loses, they can say, look, we were open. We did everything. We told you what you needed to do, and you didn't do it. That's on you. That's not on us, and that's not on our membership.
Yeah, I think that's right. I mean, and one way that we can test out how this is going to work is our friends over at the Young Turks. They did a poll of their audience. Let's throw that up on the screen. I mean, and that poll shows that, some of them will vote for Biden, but a lot of them are not going to vote, or they're going to vote for somebody else.
Not even a majority. Yeah. And look, we should be really clear. This is not scientific. This is like a snapshot. This is get a sense of where the mood of the Young Turks audience is. And
which are probably the most hardcore people on the left, like online young lefts. Half of them probably don't even vote anyway. But, I mean, this is the heartbeat of the progressive movement right here. Where they are right now is not a bad barometer of where online discussion, which we know shapes how people vote, how people think, how people will look at the election. The fact that he can't even get a majority of people to say, in that audience, who say, I'm going to vote for him. Yeah. I think that's because, Well,
and especially with Cenk out there saying, I mean, Cenk has been very clear always that he will vote for Joe Biden. Like, no reservation. He's definitely going to, because he's definitely better than Donald Trump. So, and Cenk is obviously a major leader of the network, of that movement, et cetera, and that you have so many people who are going, not sure.
Well, because I think Cenk and them must have learned from 2016 when they went all in for Hillary, and their people didn't work out, and they saw what they got. I can see it too with some of my my friends on the left. I'm like, what's going? Why does it not feel existential to you? Because I know that number would have been totally different for never Trumpers. That in the end of the day, majority of people who didn't like Trump all voted for Trump because they looked at it kind of as an existential election. And the way that the thinking that I'm beginning to hear is the existential. They don't trust Biden to deliver on the parts that they view as existential, which are climate and on healthcare. They don't view the traditional powers centers as the ones that they necessarily want to dominate, like the Supreme Court, or they look at it as a lost cause because Trump is president. And so they look at that and they say, even with the sheer power of the executive branch, yes, Biden would be marginally better in their eyes than Trump, but they're like, it's not enough for me to go out and to vote. They say, I want to stay true to my principles and the movement that we've built over the last 5 years.
I think there's also just a really human emotion of, why should I vote for a group of people who treats me so shabbily and holds me and the values that I have in total contempt? Mm-hmm. Total contempt. Like, sneered at, dismissed as toxic and problematic. Very human. I mean, it's sort of like the Trump voter sentiment of, the people who left the Democratic Party and voted for Donald Trump. Like, why am I going to vote for a party that has contempt for me? There's a lot of people out there that feel that way and also have real values and principles that they don't feel are represented by a Biden administration at all. You're not going to shame those people into voting the right way. Right. You have to convince them. You have to, and I think even more important than like any policy proposal, because we know how serious Joe Biden would ever be about, Medicare for all or even canceling student debt or any of those things. I mean, he's not serious about anything that interferes with like the corporate financial interest domination of Washington, D.C. Personnel would really be more significant commitment. If I saw him making real moves on personnel, that would be something that could persuade me. His lip service to this or that policy, frankly, I'm not going to be won over by that because, again, he's been in Washington 50 years. I know who he is. I know what I'm going to get with him. If he was to really put in positions of power people who were aligned with the Sanders movement, that would be the sort of thing that I could start to imagine. But I don't see him doing that. Well, I mean, I don't have much hope that that's actually going to happen.
You also know, as I do, that plans are cute on paper, but it's all about priorities, which is what are you going to prioritize in your first 100 days?
Are you going to spend your political capital?
All your political capital. What we've really learned from Trump, Obama, really governing in the last 30 years in this country is you get one thing. And with that one thing, you need to go all out for what you actually promised on. Trump was immigration, which didn't end up happening, by the way, because the Republican electorate might have been with him, but the GOP Congress was all in on tax cuts.
Yeah.
And that's what they decided to prioritize.
Right.
Obama's was Obamacare, but as you know, they bargained away everything, and it became a colossal mess that has left us with the healthcare system that we have right now. So what is the Biden administration going to do? Can you reasonably say it will be for those principles that those people hold dear? I just don't think that that's true. I fundamentally don't think that that's true. And that's why I really understand why these people are so reluctant to support him, because it does not align in the same way as the sweeping view of some of the cultural issues on the right that people looked at and saw Trump that could deliver on.
It's also with Biden, you're not just talking about Biden, right? You're probably looking at like a Biden-Harris ticket,
right, yeah.
Where, if Biden wins the White House, he gets his 4 years, then Kamala's the next up. And so you're talking about potentially not 4 years or even 8 years. You're talking about potentially 12 years of the Biden-type approach to politics, of the neoliberal type approach to politics. That's just a very hard pill to swallow, And look, I think ultimately most Bernie supporters are going to vote for Joe Biden because it is a terrible choice. And I can tell you personally, I would never vote for Donald Trump, never, ever going to happen. And yes, the idea of doing anything that would help him win the White House is deeply disturbing to me. So it's just a terrible choice that people face. And I completely understand why, first of all, you don't have to make that decision now. There's a long time till November. And you should put out there, you have to win me over. You can't take my vote for granted, which the moment that you say, yes, of course, I'm going to vote for Joe Biden, you lose that power. And even, moving the Medicare age down to 60 becomes off the table. Because as you point out, no one moves left after the primary is over. You move back to the center. I mean, what we're facing after these few sort of bones thrown to the left so that they have cover to be able to say, see, look, I tried. What we're facing after that most likely is him becoming more corporatist, becoming more quote unquote centrist, which I actually think the corporate position is the radical position in America. It just happens to be the dominant one held by elites. But looking at those numbers from the Young Turks, looking at also, and I highlighted this, the Quinnipiac poll that has Joe Biden at only 30% support with young people. People under the age of 34, not even super young people, under the age of 34, 30% approval rating. That is an absolute disaster. So if they don't do something about that, it is going to be ugly for them.
It's not just that. I mean, as we said, we've covered the poll here. 15% of Bernie supporters already say they're going to vote for Trump. Now, I mean, who knows? I mean, I suspect that as the campaign goes on, I think that number could grow even larger. So, he's in a tough position, and he's just put himself in a situation now where he's going to get attacked from the right for moving left, and the left is not going to join on board because, I can see this. I think others can too. The real left doesn't trust him whatsoever. So now he's back where he was.
That's right. All right, we're going to tell you what's on our radars. That's next.